Hello there, thrill seekers. I got a question in the emails that led me down a rabbit hole that I'm still descending into, but I'm just going to tell you what my findings are so far from going down this rabbit hole. A guy asked me about Jiyu-Kennett's visions, now, or third Kensho, I think is what he called it. Jiyu-Kennett was, I can tell you right here because I got her biography opened up. She was born in 1924 in England and was served at the Church of England as a priest, but then disagreed with it and got into Theravada Buddhism. I'm reading a short version of her biography. Then got into Rinzai Zen Buddhism, and then eventually went to Sojiji, which is a big Soto temple in Japan, became ordained there, received Dharma transmission twice, it says in her biography, and then came back to the West and set up monasteries. I believe she set up one in England, but most famously she established Shasta Abbey at Mount Shasta, California. That's what I was looking for in the biography. So this guy had asked me about Jiyu-Kennett's visions. She passed away, when did she pass away? 1996. So she's not around to ask about this anymore, but she famously wrote about some visions and experiences she had that were quite unusual. Let me see, I'll just read this from Wikipedia's page about it because this is the best source of information I have right now. In 1975, Jiyu-Kennett was stricken with illness yet again, so she's had this on and off, and this time she became bedridden. In 1976, worn out and convinced death was near, she resigned from her position as abbess of Shasta Abbey and went into retreat in Oakland, California. Still rather ill of unknown causes, Jiyu-Kennett had a prolonged religious experience, including a series of visions and recalling past lives. She regarded these experiences as a profound Kensho experience, enlightenment experience, constituting a third Kensho. So I guess she must have had two more before this. Okay, that's fine. And published an account of these visions and an elaborate scheme of stages of awakening in How to Grow a Lotus Blossom. I guess that's a book. I don't have that book. Her interpretations, which parallel Christian mysticism, were controversial and rejected by some as Makkyo, which means illusion, and I've talked about this on Makkyo, I've talked about on this page here. Stephen Batchelor describes these episodes. So this is from a book Stephen Batchelor wrote about Zen in the West. So this is not her words, these are Stephen Batchelor's. The visions lasted for 12 months until 26 January 1977, the first 12 occurring in Oakland, the rest at Shasta, where she returned on 25th October. Each vision unfolded as a dreamlike episode charged with Western and Buddhist religious symbolism superimposing itself on whatever she saw around her. She compared the series of visions to an elaborated contemporary version of the classical Zen images of the 10 ox herding pictures, which you'll have to look up. I'm not going to have time to go into what those are right here. Some of you will know. By the time the final vision faded, she was cured. She interpreted the experience as that of third Kensho. And back to Wikipedia, it says, according to Jiyu-Kennett, her experiences are not uncommon but are rarely spoken of. She regarded publishing her own experiences as a way to acknowledge the existence and validity of such experiences, which, according to her, may contribute to further insight after initial awakening. She acknowledged the risks and potential for controversy in publishing her account, but felt the benefits of releasing such information outweighed the risks. According to Kay, I'm not sure Kay is, Kennett's visionary experiences and also her ambivalence about the status of their content are not unprecedented within the Zen tradition. Soto literature includes numerous accounts, as noted especially by Faure, F-A-U-R-E, Faure, Visions of Power, which is a book that I don't have, described by founders of Soto Zen, Dogen, and Keizan. Yet Dogen and Keizan also warned against seeing visions or unusual spiritual experiences as the goal of practice. And that's the rabbit hole. I wanted to tell you that Dogen never talked about these kind of experiences, but when I went down the rabbit hole, it got deeper and deeper. So, let me just give you where I'm at right now. First, in this book, Enlightenment Unfolds, this is by Kazuaki Tanahashi, we have this, what page is that? I think it's on page 261, although it's one of these books where there's some of the pages. Yeah, 261. Anyway, 3 auspicious signs at Eihei Monastery, and this is listed as being 1251 Echizen. And it's quite short, so let me read to you what it says. This is Kazuaki Tanahashi's translation. Let me respond to your question about the sounds of a bell on this mountain. I have often heard them during this 8-year period. Around midnight on the 5th day, the 1st month of this year, when the honorary monk Prime Minister Kassan-in and I were discussing the Buddha Dharma in the Ryozen Hermitage, we heard around 200 strokes of the bell. As its loudness was like the bell of the Kiyomizu Temple in Hagashima-yama, Kyoto, or that of Hosho Temple, I listened with great joy, struck with awe. Now, so those of you who don't know Japanese geography, those would be very, very far away places, so there's no way you could hear the bell from there, okay? So that's not what he's saying. Kassan-in, also filled with great joy, said that this is an extraordinary place. The middle commander, Minister Kanetomo, who came with Kansan-in, did not hear the bell, even though he was in the same room. I hear Ziggy, I don't hear a bell. Oh dear, do I have to go see what that is? Okay, hang on. Okay, apparently they're delivering a new stove next door, so this is going to be Ziggy barking and stove happening and all this stuff, but I'm going to still try to carry on. Nor did honorary monk Secretary Ukon, they didn't hear it either. Also 2 or 3 court ladies did not hear it, the samurai. On another occasion, when I was explaining the precepts to the assembly on the 15th day, the 1st month, the 5th year of Kangen year, 1247, a 5-colored cloud rose from the front of the abbot's quarters and floated there for about half an hour. Many monks and lay people saw it. Also from the 4th month until the 12th day of the 11th month of the 2nd year of Hoji era, that's 1248, an unusual and wondrous scent spread inside and outside the monks' hall. These 3 occurrences are indeed auspicious signs of this spiritual place. The ringing of the bell is like the sounds heard on Mount Tiantai in China. That is the temple in China where Dogen studied. Now, I asked about this several months ago to Shohaku Okumura, and when did I ask this? Oh, I don't even remember, but it was several months to maybe even a year ago I asked about this. And at the time, I couldn't remember where I had seen it. I didn't remember that I saw it in Enlightenment Unfold. So what I gave Shohaku Okumura to work with was my addled, weird memory of having read something that I could not find in Shobo Genzo. So this is what Shohaku Okumura said actually to my friend Zuiko, because I'd asked her and she asked him, and it's a long story. Anyway, here it goes. That is not written by Dogen Zenji himself. Now remember, he's not talking about what I just read you. He's talking about my poor memory of what I just read you, which I couldn't remember the source of. This is one of the several auspicious signs at Eiheiji written in Dogen's biography Kenzei-ki. I don't think an English translation of Kenzei-ki is available. Now, Kenzei-ki was written hundreds of years after Dogen's life, and usually it's regarded as fairly dubious as a historical document because it's not really based on written accounts of people in the contemporary times. It may come from an oral tradition that was passed down, or it may have just been kind of made up by the guy who wrote it. And he sent me some pictures, and if I'm good enough, I'll superimpose these pictures on the screen while you hear this. On the 1st day of the summer practice period, heavenly flowers fell. That's panel number 48 in the illustrations. Panel number 49, when they had a furatsu ceremony, a 5-colored cloud was seen. I'm not sure exactly what that ceremony is, but it doesn't matter. 54. They occasionally had wonderful fragrance inside and outside the Sodo, that's one of the rooms in the temple, from the 4th month to the 11th month of 1248. And panel 55, when they had the ceremony offerings to arhats, those are saints, their statues and paintings emitted light. And 59, when Dogen was talking with a guest, they heard the sound of a bonsho bell. Those are all pretty much consistent with what I read you. And Showaku Okumura Roshi's commentary at the end says, it seems that there were not so many interests or important things to write while Dogen Zenji was living at Eiheiji. So he's kind of saying, yeah, it seems like there wasn't that it didn't sound that cool, so they were beefing it up with some more stuff. So that's Okumura Roshi, and I trust Okumura Roshi. I think he's a really good scholar and a practitioner, and if that's what he says, then that's what I'm going to go with. But going down the rabbit hole even further, there was a Wikipedia page about Dogen, and I'll let you look that up. But there's a whole segment of that Wikipedia page about Dogen. Hold on, I'll tell you where it is. Called Miraculous Events and Auspicious Signs, okay? Now, most of their information comes from this book by Bodiford, so I'm just going to read you what William Bodiford says. Dogen taught not just by word, but also by deed, and as mentioned earlier, his teachings by example included a wider audience than just his disciples. The monastic rituals he practiced involved laymen in forms of cultic worship not usually associated with modern interpretations of Dogen. For example, villagers and local officials regularly participated in the precept recitation ceremonies conducted at Eiheiji. During standard forms of this ritual, all the monks of the monastery jointly recite not only the precepts, but also several short texts in praise of the power of the precepts to subdue evil. More than 20 laymen who participated in one precept ceremony at Eiheiji in 1247 witnessed the appearance of multicolored clouds shining out from the abbot's building, Hojo. The laymen were so awed by the experience that they wrote a pledge to always testify to the truth of its occurrence. On other occasions at Eiheiji, when Dogen preached to officials or noble ladies, gongs from an unearthly temple bell echoed through the valley, and the fragrance of unknown incense filled the air. That's kind of his version of what I just read you. Dogen also conducted ceremonies for public worship of the 16 supernatural Rakan, those are arhats, saints, Buddhist saints, who protect Buddhism. During one of these services in 1249, rays of light shone out from the images, and the Rakan themselves magically appeared before the worshippers as heavenly flowers rained down. Dogen wrote that such apparitions had been known previously only at Mount Tiantai in China. Again, that's where he studied. So it sounds like William Bodiford is there paraphrasing that thing that I wrote you, which, according to Shohaku Okumura, was not written by Dogen himself. But then I'm sort of like, this is the rabbit hole part of it. I'm like, Bodiford is a pretty intense scholar, so I don't know if he would put that in there as if Dogen wrote it, because that most people don't think Dogen wrote that stuff. I don't know, we'll have to ask William Bodiford, and I followed the footnotes in the back, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many things in here I don't even own or know how to access, so I'm not even going to bother. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't find, and I don't have it in my library. Point is, and I'm going to have to make the point very short at the end of the video to give this whole thing. Here's what I think about that stuff. Such kinds of visions and such like are not unknown in Zen practice, but they aren't much talked about. Now, if you look at other sort of spiritual practices that are similar to Zen, for example, the Advaita Vedanta tradition, which I talk about a lot here, you find more of that stuff. For example, Ramana Maharshi is supposed to have had such visions when he was very young, as a child, when he first got into this, and it was the ending of these visions that was the beginning of his sort of ministry of talking about the Advaita non-dualistic philosophy. Nisargadatta Maharaj also mentions very briefly in passing in some of his works having had such kinds of visions, but he again, like Ramana Maharshi before him, also regards these as unimportant and not part of what he was trying to transmit to people. So I think the bottom line is it's not important, and that's not what he's trying to transmit to people. Evidence of that is, although these things seem to be maybe part of things Dogen wrote, but we don't know for sure, they're not in Shobo Genzo. And Shobo Genzo is huge. You know, I'm doing my hands like this to show you how huge it is when printed in English on paper. It's a gigantic book that contains lots and lots and lots of pages, thousands of pages, and, you know, I read it 3 times all the way through, but the last time I read it all the way through was, God, 15 years ago or something. So it's possible there are bits and pieces I've forgotten, but I'm sure if there was parts about him having miraculous experiences, I would have remembered those. I can't think of anything in there. There are some things I've talked about on this channel about weird dreams he had, and there's a couple of sort of very passing references to sort of mystical experiences, but nothing like hearing weird bells and smelling incense and light shining out of statues and, visions of past lives and, what Jiyu-Kennett talks about. So bottom line, again, is not to put any of this stuff down, but it's secondary at best, or maybe not even. The only thing it might do for a person is it's a bit like what people claim for psychedelic drugs. They kind of slap you on the face and get you out of your habitual way of looking at things and tell you there's a whole other way of looking at things. But here's the thing. This world is incredibly mystical. Just the fact that you are hearing me and understanding my words, if you sit and think about that for a few seconds, you'll be like, whoa, that is weird. The fact that I can communicate with you across whatever distances, that's weird. We can say it's technology, but it's weird. Just the fact that there is language and we can talk to each other and we exist and there are flowers and there are trees and there are solid things, that is weird and miraculous, and that is the thing I think we should be paying attention to, and not some kind of other worldly realm. I should have gone on longer about that, but I've already wasted too much time. Thank you for donating to me. Good segue, right? If you want to donate to me, the information's right there on the screen of how you can donate. That is my only way of making a living, and I really appreciate those of you who keep on supporting me. But if you don't have money, don't support me, because I'm doing all right. But I'm doing all right because people like you, or maybe you personally, send me money every month, and that helps a lot. That's my pitch for donations. See you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey, Ziggy.